In any gacha, you obviously want to get the best return on investment and the most affordable options possible, especially when characters cost you hundreds of dollars. Honkai Star Rail has given out more and more free 5 stars in the past year or so, but why is that? Are they doing this because they want to give back to the player base, or is it more out of obligation due to the current state of the meta? But before we can answer that, a quick word from today's sponsor. Gacha games can get pretty expensive, and if you're planning to pull in the new Denhang or Naxa banners, you'll probably want to save some money. That's why I recommend checking out lootbar.gg. Lootbar is a trusted top-up site for all your favorite games like Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Wuthering Waves, and many other games. On Lootbar, you can get up to 30% off discounts on your purchases compared to the in-game store. If you're a new user, you can claim a 10% off coupon just by clicking the link in the description or pinned comment. And if you've used Lootbar before, you still get 8% off as a returning user. If you want to guarantee the character, there's even a package for that. To purchase, all you need to do is enter your UID. No login info is needed. After checkout, your purchase will arrive in your account, fast and secure. Lootbar is a highly trusted platform with millions of customers, thousands of 5-star reviews, and is also trusted by many big creators. I've used it myself plenty of times and saved tons of money with them. So if you're interested, click the link down below, grab your discount coupon, and start saving on your pulls today. Back to the video. Now before we can get into the two main characters of today, we first need to discuss the history of free 5 stars as a whole. Our first free limited 5-star came out all the way back in 1.6. This update marked a high point in Star Rail as a game, especially with Penacony just around the corner. So what does Hoyo do? Give us Dr. Ratio for free. When I say nobody saw this coming, I really mean it. This was very unexpected, but also very welcomed. He was also the start of one of the largest community rivalries in Hoyo history, that being the infamous Genshin Could Never movement, which in hindsight wasn't entirely incorrect. Genshin did technically give a free 5-star in the form of Aloy, but she was a very underwhelming character and to this day remains one of the most hated units of all time. Dr. Ratio, on the other hand, was an incredibly strong DPS at his release and only got better as time went on once characters like Robin and Aventurine came out. The important thing to understand is that Dr. Ratio came out at a time where the power creep was not nearly as significant as it is now. While the damage ceiling definitely increased during this period, Dr. Ratio was competitive at a top level and continued to get stronger. After his claim window ended, that's all we had for almost a year, and it took until 3.2 for us to get another free limited 5-star. In the 3.2 livestream, a new item was added called the Golden Companion Spirit. This allows you to select a 5-star from the Stellar Convergence shop. This included all the standard banner characters as well as Ranmei and Luocha, two previously limited characters. We were also given one spirit for free, so you were able to pick up one of these characters if you wanted to. Neither of them are really amazing, although Ranmei is a pretty solid general support and is integral to the break meta. More characters will be added to the shop in the future, so many people including myself decided to hold on to the spirit. And in the following months, we would learn that we were getting not one, but 2 free 5-stars this year, and honestly, that's pretty damn cool. Our first of 2 characters was a little unexpected. Back last year, we had the announcement of the Fate collab, and while it took a very long time to actually get in the game, we finally got it. While the Fate collab was heavily criticized for the underwhelming story and the boring event, something that everybody loved was the characters. Saber and Archer are what I assume to be very important characters in Fate. I don't know, I've never seen the show. But regardless, we got them, and Saber is pretty solid, but the real standout was Archer. He is insanely strong, easily one of the best DPSs in the game. When he first came out, there was a bunch of videos of him just completely ignoring boss mechanics and brute forcing fights. His kit is quite simple, but also very effective. Something I don't think gets talked about enough is that he proved that Hoyo has the ability to bring characters back from the dead if they want to. Don't get me wrong, we've seen this before with Jingyuan and Sunday, but this is also great to see. Archer makes fantastic use of Sparkle, who was previously the weakest limited harmony by far. I had a lot of fun using Archer with my Sparkle, and Hoyoverse should really be proud of themselves for being able to salvage Sparkle by making her work with this guy. Archer's Light Cone also had a small event for it where if you spent 200 pulls in 3.4, you would just get it for free. This event was quite controversial, reasonably so I think that's good that his Light Cone is not a must pull. I was very satisfied with Archer as a whole, and I think most people were too. He is definitely the savior of the Fate collab, and there really was nothing wrong with him. But that only checks one free 5-star, and the next one we knew about months in advance. It was Dan Heng, but taller this time, and a shielder. I do think it is significantly better that we got a free sustain this time instead of a DPS. DPSs in general don't have a very long shelf life, however the sustains end up lasting quite a lot longer in the meta. While most 4-star sustains with the exception of Gallagher are quite weak, every limited sustain is still pretty viable. Okay, maybe most of them, but still, they do their job even though there are some who are objectively better than others. Dan Heng is a very strong sustainer with great shielding along with team-wide cleansing and some attack buffing. His main gimmick is attaching a summon to a character and allowing them to essentially act as their second form of damage. While the damage is not very high, I'm being serious when I say this is one of my favorite kit ideas we've gotten in a very long time. Sunday is a character who is the summon buffer, so naturally people expected us to get Remembrance characters that synergize with him and Amphorius. But that really didn't end up happening. The only Remembrance character that really wanted Sunday was Aglaia, with the rest of them not needing him, leaving the summon part of his kit completely unused. Dan fixes that issue because he enables them to use a summon. And if your character already has a summon, like Aglaia for example, both summons get advanced. A team I had a lot of fun with was actually a team with Archer, and for 2 free 5 stars on the team, I was very impressed with the end result. His only real downside is being an attack scaler, his preservation light cone options are really bad. His signature is quite strong that even enables him to heal, and while not necessary, it is pretty good. However, using a high base attack light cone is what most people, including myself, ended up doing. At the time I'm recording this video, if you log into Honkai Star Rail right now, you can get 2 limited 5 stars for completely free. And this is obviously a good thing, so you may be wondering, why am I telling you all this? Well, with all this talk about free 5 stars, there is the elephant in the room of having a lack of new 4 stars released into the game. If we compare the 3 big Hoyo games, Genshin easily has the strongest, with many day 1 4 stars still being insanely powerful to this day. And while Zenless is newer, a lot of the launch and post-launch 4 stars are quite good. HSR used to have a pretty solid roster of 4 star characters. I remember back in the day, Ching Chui was actually a pretty solid DPS you could do fun stuff with. But this was over 2 years ago, and the landscape of the game has definitely changed a lot. The only 4 star that actually sees a lot of play is Gallagher, who is a pretty good sustain, but most of the other 4 stars are just left to rot and die. The last 4 star that was released was Mo's in 2.5, and that was over a year ago. But why did Hoyo leave 4 stars to rot only in Honkai Star Rail? Well, we could use a cop-out answer and just say money, but I do think there is more to it. Firstly, power creep. Now this may sound obvious, but when a meta is balanced around 5 star units, then it's a lot more likely that the lower rarity units will be filtered out over time. HSR having the worst power creep out of any main Hoyo gacha only amplifies that narrative. But that's also not to say HSR doesn't have any good 4 stars, because there is one character that has been able to slip through the cracks, and that is Gallagher. A lot of people point to Gallagher as the reason we don't get more 4 stars, and the argument does have some weight to it. I'm sure most people are aware how good this man is, so I don't think I really need to sit here and glaze him. This guy is an anomaly of a unit. Having a 4 star that is versatile and strong you can fit into whatever team you need is a great thing for the players, but who it's not great for is Hoyo. Because when a character like Lingsha comes out, who is essentially a 5 star variant of Gallagher, players are perfectly content with their 4 star option and they don't feel the need to pull in the 5 star. Hell, one of the reasons why the break meta was pretty strong was because of how low investment it was. Harmony MC is free, and Gallagher was the 4 star. Nowadays, the new big thing is the Remembrance path, which has no 4 stars and is completely reliant on the MC. And when you have characters like Evernight who loses crit damage by not fulfilling their requirement, then that's a big problem. As the endgame got harder and the teams got more specific, the amount of viable 4 stars slowly dwindled until most people just ended up running all 5 star lineups at all times. And as less 4 stars get released, the game's difficulty will still continue to rise. Not only is there a lot of HP inflation, but something that should be talked about more is attack inflation. Enemies have been hitting harder to the point where I've noticed a unit like Gallagher is starting to struggle a bit. Don't even get me started on Anomaly Arbitration. That mode nearly requires one of the top sustains like Hyacine or now Dan Heng. They probably ended up giving him out for free because they realized that players needed him. And something we need to be very clear about is that we don't know if Honkai Star Rail is actually done with 4 stars. They could very well be working on many of them for 4.x and we just don't know about them yet. They may have decided to take this route due to the Amphorius story with the Chrysos heirs. Every single one of them has been a 5 star and not one 4 star has released. I understand that they're important to the lore, but honestly I believe a character like Seridra could have been a 4 star given how niche she is. But if they do make a character that people like into a 4 star, they might get backlash for it. We saw a prime example of this in Zenless recently with Monato. People were very upset about him being a 4 star, but they also released this, so I don't know if people are still angry. I know at least for me, the character rarity doesn't matter as much as how good the character actually is. I mean, have you ever seen a Gallagher main complain about him being a 4 star? Probably not. If the proper power budget is allocated to those specific characters, players will not really care much about the rarity. Honkai Star Rail used to be a game widely praised for its generosity, but over time that label has slowly faded to the point where people call this game pay to win, and it's really not that hard to see why. It gets to the point where it starts to feel like they have to give those characters out of necessity in order for you to keep up with the game. And the truth is, we don't know if free 5 stars are going to be the standard. We were told we would be given 2 more 5 stars this year, meaning that accessible options that every player can get is limited to whatever Hoyo decides to handpick if we get anything in the future at all. And of course, I'm not saying giving out free stuff is bad, I will absolutely take free 5 stars, but if it is coming at the cost of more affordable options, I start to sit back and wonder if that's really the best decision. At the end of the day, people just want affordable options in their characters, and given that both other Hoyo titles have that for the most part, it's pretty fair to want the same here. And they've somewhat gone better at this with things like Nova Flare, the Spirit Shop, Celestial Invitation, and notably, free 5 stars. But it would also require Hoyo to pinpoint what their design philosophy actually is. Making a 4-star means you remove a lot of the constant pressure to have everything be so overpowered, and you get the opportunity to experiment with more playstyles and mechanics. For example, a character who I think has a pretty interesting kit is Misha. For people who have no idea what this guy does, he is a freeze DPS, and the more skill points you use, the more hits he gets in his ultimate. He has some funny interactions, especially with the Aventurine boss, and is a character that I am fond of, even though he is objectively pretty terrible. Characters like this lets Hoyo experiment with different play patterns without stepping on the toes of limited 5 stars. And if these characters are actually well received, they can consider making similar concepts into 5 stars in the future. Another way is to make characters that are important to a piece of the current meta. For example, Archer is a great DPS and all, but we have the HP and Remembrance metas right now, both of which are extremely expensive that require limited 5 stars. They've made new 4 stars for niches many times, like new dot units for Kafka and new follow-up units for Fei Xiao, but for Remembrance, there is nothing.
There's nothing.
Not even the free 5 stars help with this, which makes it feel a little bit counterintuitive. Having a new 4-star Remembrance character would significantly benefit the path and not make it feel remotely as restrictive as it is. It's no secret that if they want these 4 stars to be used by the general public, the power budget for them needs to be increased. We don't need more Arlens or Natashas, but having higher powered units is going to be the preferred outcome. Having units be around Gallagher level I think is a perfectly fine level for 4 stars to be at, while slightly raising that bar over time. They should also be a bit easier to obtain. There's still no pity on 4 stars, meaning you could theoretically pull forever and never get the unit that you actually want. But if none of this happens and free 5 stars are used to substitute 4 stars, then what should they actually do? First thing would be to have them be a bit more frequent. We got 2, but technically 3 free 5 stars this year, and I think it's actually an okay amount if the choices are strong. Because if they give out a character who is pretty weak, then that wastes a slot for one that could have had good value. I would also consider making them more available. Free 5 stars typically have a 3 patch or so claim window. Maybe after the claim window ends, they can be obtained in some other way. I think this should be for some, not all the free 5 stars, because obviously you still want people playing the game. And I think Don Hung specifically needs this. Maybe after you finish his arc and N4 is, you can still acquire him. They probably won't end up doing this, but you want to know what's going to be available instead? 4 stars. What it really comes down to is that they can both coexist. In a game like Star Rail, they both have their place, and if HSR wants to instead do one or the other, then the game should be more built around that. Whether it be free 5 stars or new 4 stars, the game will greatly benefit from having more flexibility and diversity in the roster if those units are made to support the current meta. Will they actually end up making more 4-star units? I don't know. Will they end up making more free 5 stars? I also don't know. Cyrene is our last character of Amphoreus before we head back to Penacony, and assuming nothing happens there, we would have gone the entire version without a 4-star. I hope that we end up seeing some in the next region, and if not, well, then where the fuck is my free Cyrene? I am curious to hear what people think about this entire topic, so let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like and subscribe, and consider joining the Discord down below. If you want to save money on your Stellar Jason, check out Loot Bar in the description too. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.